The full-time whistle has just blown in Wellington. It's all over between New Zealand and France. Test 2 of this disrespect series. And, well, it was a beatdown. 43 points to 17. Let me know your thoughts in the chat down below. And I'll certainly give you mine. And give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe. I predicted, do you remember what my prediction was the other day? It's there in the video. I said New Zealand by 26. There you go. You should use me for your betting advice. Actually, don't do that. Leave it to Israel Dag. Izzy Dag seems to love his betting, doesn't he? Judging on the pre-game. So yeah, it was a beatdown. The job was done in the first half from New Zealand, whose pack absolutely bullied France's. Fabien Galtier had changed his whole forward pack, and not really any of them advanced their claim to be involved in French squads in the future. They got munched. Absolutely smashed. And Tupu Vai was the pick of the All Blacks forwards. I don't know who was given man of the match. I would have given it to him. He is blossoming properly into a test rugby player, isn't he? But loads of New Zealand players showed up well. Ardie Savia and Will Jordan did Ardie Savia and Will Jordan things. Cam Roigard, massive positive. He looks elite. I thought Patrick Tuipulotu coming in for Scott Barrett was really good. And, you know, Scott Barrett's the skipper, but I don't know. Is there an argument? Hitrok Tuipulotu might be better. I mean, the whole point is you need to have a lot of players you can totally rely on to come in when there is an injury, and they do in Patty T. Billy Proctor and Rico Ioane, there were signs of that relationship blossoming. I thought Beauden Barrett was really good. I'm basically just naming the whole New Zealand team, aren't I? Yeah, I'll get into the game and some of the individuals that I was impressed by. But let's start with the anthems. I mean, here in this game, you have New Zealand and France. So you have a haka, amazing curtain raiser for a game, and you have La Marseillaise, the best anthem in the world, in my humble opinion. The anthems did get butchered a little bit by an interesting musical accompaniment to the anthems. Not sure about that one. Then we got the kamate. But yeah, these French players not even worthy of a cap or a panga. I'm joking. The French players looked like they absolutely loved it, to be fair. Big grins on their faces. They did not love what happened next. I was just glad that the weather was all right, because the fears were that it was going to be biblical rain. But no, that was all good. Actually, before I get into the game, I want to talk about Jeff Wilson. And I think I'm falling into his trap, you know, because I think this is what Jeff Wilson wants. At half-time, New Zealand were 29-3 up. Job was done. They'd scored 4 tries, put the game to bed, and France were not going to come back. They came back a bit in the second half, but they were never going to win the game. Jeff Wilson went on one of his diatribes about the disrespect to the French team. This is why they shouldn't have brought a second team. They're a disgrace, and New Zealand, it's going to get ugly. Well, for one, that's not what happened in the second half, but more's the point. It's just that there are reasons, very understandable and logical and reasonable reasons why France have sent the players that they've sent to New Zealand. Like, at the one time, I bet you Jeff Wilson at other times says, you know, and Justin Marshall's been doing it as well, and it is just some of the media in New Zealand. There are actually podcasts and people out there that get the bigger picture and understand about the top 14. But like at the same time, I bet you Justin Marshall and Jeff Wilson, I bet they say, oh, players play too many games. Player welfare is the most important thing. And then they'll also say, hold on a minute, Tomo Ramos, you've played 30 games this year. You need to get on a plane and play in New Zealand 6 days later. It's just mad. So this is not new. I don't understand how this whole French disrespect team they're sending down to New Zealand. I don't understand how it's a story, because this is what's happened for years. Anyway, moving on. 6 tries to 2. Like I say, job was done in the first half. It was 14-all in the second half, and that may take the shine off the win a little tiny bit for New Zealand, the fact that they didn't just ram that dominance home in the second half. But like I say, it's a funny one psychologically as much as anything. When you know the game is won and there are more games to come, and you know what? This French series, they're going to win the series 3-0, but it's all about the 6th of September against the Box, isn't it? That Eden Park record on the line. That's the biggest game of 2025. No doubt. So you kind of want to keep your powder dry a little bit for that. And talking about keeping powder dry, well, New Zealand have let out the bag one of their trick plays. And Cam Roygard, I'm not sure he'll get away with that again, but it fooled everyone, including the cameraman. How much fun was that try for New Zealand? Set up for a maul, and the maul was totally dominant for New Zealand in that first half. So it was a really good area to have the launch play from. Christian Leo Willie looks like he's got the ball at the back of the maul, spins out with his back to the French team on appeal, unbeknownst to France and everybody else in the stadium. Ardi Savia is the guy that had his hands on the ball. Little dart down the blind side, flick to Cam Roygard, and before France even know what's happened, try time. Absolutely brilliant. Loved it. And then they're 10-0 up before Beauden Barrett got a yellow card for a deliberate knock on. And I really don't like. I don't want to moan. I want to stay really positive, but I'm just going to call a couple of things as I see it. Jeff Wilson annoyed me. That's one. And the other thing, deliberate knock-ons annoy me. I just think we're holding players to such an unrealistic standard. Like they don't even have the capacity for their brain to decide what's happening. The ball comes, the hand moves. It's a legitimate attempt to get a ball, and they knock it on, and you end up with Beauden Barrett getting a yellow card. However, it was consistent with the Gavin Villiers deliberate knock-on yellow card last week. So I guess at least it's consistent between games. I'll take that. Savia scores, Cody Taylor scores, and basically every time New Zealand scored a maul, they were getting change out of it and bullying France, to be honest. I think in between the two tries, if I remember, Josh Brennan got his yellow card for France as well for that tackle on Geordie Barrett, which went beyond the horizontal. That was kept at a yellow card as well. So yeah, the pack in the first half was the difference. It looked ace for New Zealand, and Fabian Holland. I don't want to hype people up too early. I'm always wary of, like, just because a player's young, you assume they're just going to keep getting better at the same rate. That's not always how it goes. Just because he's as good as he is now doesn't mean in 5 years' time he's going to be like that much better. However, big if Fabian Holland continues to develop, he looks to the manner born, and he looks like a potential Retallick Whitelock 100 capper for New Zealand. And I know it's a crazy thing to say at this stage, but another 80-minute performance for him. And one thing you can say for certain, he has got a giant engine. Yeah, on Pitruk Tuapolotu. No, Scott Barrett. I'm crazy, aren't I? That Patty T could start ahead of Scott Barrett. I don't know. Maybe, do you know what? It's not the top end elite competition on this one. So actually, and Tuapolotu, the role that he has fulfilled many times in the past for New Zealand really well, and which I think will be his role, is off the bench, 20, 30 minutes, tear a game up, change the momentum. And he does that brilliantly. But Tupu Vai persisted, with Barrett going out, the temptation might have been to move Vai into the second row. I'm really glad that Scott Robertson stuck to his guns on his selection, only made changes because of injuries, and Tupu Vai stayed on the blindside flank. And I mean, when Satiti comes back, that'll be the interesting call about what they do. Presumably Satiti to 8, but Satiti, Savia, and Tupu Vai just looks like it has balance, rangy runner, power everywhere. Another line out option, looks really good. Savia swatted off Joris Segond, who went too high on him. You cannot go high on Ardi Savia. Boom, off you go, sunshine. Fabian Holland was in support, and it was Tupu Vai that got that awesome try before half time. Absolutely class. And another feature, as well as the New Zealand pack, Cam Roygard's boot tactically could be massively important for New Zealand as well. He's got proper length on that boot. Depth in New Zealand. When you look at the second half, and bearing in mind this was a depth building exercise for France, and Fabien Galtier, he will have learnt quite a bit about some of his players, good and bad, over the last couple of games. And we may see some France careers ended before they've even begun off the back of this game. But the depth in New Zealand, maybe you can sort of see why France do this. Let's build some depth. Let's get some guys some games, see whether they're up to it, because it fell off in that second half for New Zealand. Now, albeit New Zealand have still got Tomaiti Williams to come back, Tyrell Lomax, Wallace Satiti, Anton Linnett-Brown, and there's others as well that I'm forgetting. Cortez Ratimer, though, I don't know, not totally convinced. They've got Hotham. I wonder if Ruben Love will get a run in the third test. But I don't want to be unkind to DMAC, because DMAC's awesome as well. But Finau, question mark? I don't know. Overall, you've got to be happy. And Will Jordan got his regulation try. He always does, obviously. and there was a try for Rico Ioane, wasn't it? But it was Leo Barret and Josh Brennan got a try on debut. For France, let me just throw the spotlight on France for a second. Their line-out was absolutely dreadful. Awful. And I thought they would go to an aerial game with this one, with Atisogbe and Barret and Gaeton being their back three. And it worked quite well against New Zealand. Their kicking was just poor. But not the amount they kicked, that's not a problem. It was just the quality of the kicking. Partly because New Zealand were messing up their ball, but there was just poor discipline, poor kicking, poor game management. They forced passes when they weren't on. Just a really a bad first half in terms of basics from France. Better in the second. They sorted out the line out a little bit, but the game had sort of lost its shape and fizzled out, I'd say. 14 all in the second half. But you've got to give credit to France for kind of rallying a little bit and making it more difficult. Because to be fair, Jeff Wilson was right. It looked like it was going to get ugly at halftime, but as it is, New Zealand by 26 points. As I predicted. Yeah, drop a thumbs up on the video, hit subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. British and Irish Lions next.